Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiskey Central. If you're new here, my name is Shayla, and today I'm doing a review of the bottle that my patrons voted on, which is the Willett 4-Year Rye. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to give a quick Patreon shout out to the legend and Bourbon King, Dan Like. He's been a patron for a while, but I wanted to wait until I did either a bourbon or a rye review to give him a shout out. As always, there's timestamps in the description box below if you want to skip around to other parts of the video. And just a quick heads up, I'm a little bit sick, so sorry if my voice sounds weird, but yeah, let's get into it. As most of you guys know, the Bardstown Bourbon Company World's Top Whiskey Taster, Matt friggin' Porter, gifted me this bottle for my birthday. If you haven't seen the video, I'll link it here in just a second, but this was the first bottle that was ever given to me, so this is what happened.
Bottle. Oh my god, it's a bottle. Wow, a little happy birthday thing. This is so cool. Oh my god. Wow, Matt, that's crazy. Oh, he sent me Willett, guys. I don't know if you can see it, but...
Basically, I cried for like 20 minutes, composed myself a little bit, and then started filming again, but this is one of my favorite bottles that I have on my shelf, and the likelihood that this review can be unbiased is pretty much impossible, So with that being said, let's get into the history. The coat of arms on the bottle is from one of the early family members, Edward Willett, who was a pewtersmith. He made a pewter mark with a bird sitting on top of a crown, which was part of the coat of arms for the English Willett family. John David Willett was the first Willett to get started in the whiskey business. He started Moore, Willett, and Frank Distillery, and he later became the master distiller at several distilleries in and around Bardstown, where he developed many mash bills that the family still uses today. At 15 years old, Lambert Willett started working at the Mattingly Moore Distillery. He worked there for about 5 years. Then he moved over to the Max Sellinger and Company Distillery, and he worked there for 20 years. In 1936, Lambert and his son Thompson founded the Willett Distillery. They began building in the spring of 1936, and they produced their first batch of whiskey on the 17th of March in 1937. In the 1940s, Willett Distillery introduced Old Bardstown, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. They were best known for creating the Fiddle bottle. This unique bottle was shaped like a violin, and you probably can still find an empty one of these in an antique store. In the 1970s, the energy crisis hit, and Willett decided to start distilling ethanol for fuel instead of making whiskey. This strategy failed, and the company was forced to shut down in the 1980s. Even with this shutdown, remarkably, the company is still family-owned. Thompson Willett's daughter, Martha Willett, married a Norwegian, Evan Kolsveen, in 1972. Operating as Kentucky Bourbon Distillers, he purchased the company in 1984. In 2008, this Willett family estate rye was introduced. Because of new ownership, they had to source a lot of their whiskey until their product came of age, but on the 27th of January in 2012, the first barrel was filled by the revamped distillery. This would have been Thompson Willett's 103rd birthday. Alright, so let's get into the details of this whiskey. This bottle will run you about $60, it's family owned, and it's made in Bardstown, Kentucky. It's aged for 4 years, and it's bottled at cask strength, which in my case is 54.1% ABV or 108.2 proof. And their mash bill is a combination of Willett's high rye mash bill, which is 74% rye, 11% corn, and 15% malted barley, and their low rye mash bill, which is 51% rye, 34% corn, and 15% malted barley. It's aged in new charred oak barrels, and it's a straight rye whiskey, so there's no caramel coloring added, and it's also non-chill filtered. And just a quick note on production, Willett has 3 different stills. A column still, a pot still, and a more rare doubler or thumper still, which is still used for secondary distillation, but mostly they use their column still. So normally I say I'm going to pour a dram of this, but I actually can't smell anything right now. Luckily I took some notes on this whiskey when I could smell, so I'm going to go grab those and I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm going to do my best to describe just kind of my experience with this whiskey without nosing or tasting it. So on the nose, I said that it was nose warming, like there's a little bit of a warming sensation and like a slight prickle kind of in your nose. Probably a little bit from that 108 proof kind of alcohol. And then I said there was a really nice deep caramel note and quite a bit of rye spice. And just, this is kind of a general note, not a specific note, but I said good intensity and boldness of flavors. So sometimes I notice that just kind of things are barely there, but with a lot of these, you know, with a lot of these notes, pretty much everything was kind of hitting you. Like, they were all very powerful notes. Next thing I got was citrus, and I said that there was quite a bit of fruitiness in there. Of course, I didn't specify the fruit. This was just my first pass through, so usually I go through and kind of, I get a little bit more specific with my second and third tasting. This was only my first tasting, so just kind of have to go with it. I also said there was a lot of vanilla, and then a lot of cinnamon and clove, almost like Red Hots, like those cinnamon Red Hot candies, kind of reminded me a little bit of that. And then kind of more into the rye spice, I said rye spice, and then there's a little bit of floral. I also said a little bit of grass and maybe just a little bit of mint, so kind of a little bit of herbally, but also quite a bit of sweetness. There's not too much corn in here, but you could definitely feel that. So, all right, let's go on to the palate. All right, so as Matt from ADHD Whiskey would say, a proofy gal. So I said an intense proofy gal, get a little bit of a Kentucky hug. It's almost 110 proof, so it makes sense. I said a little bit slightly drying, and then you get that rye spice and a little bit of pepper. And then on the palate, I also got a little bit of cherry. So when I said fruitiness on the nose, the palate, maybe it was cherry. I didn't obviously get an opportunity to try that, but all right. So on the finish, I said medium long finish, nice mouthfeel, good complexity, and well balanced. So even though everything was powerful, it kind of all felt well integrated, or just even though everything was powerful, one wasn't overpowering the other, if that makes any sense at all. Alright, so those were my notes. So sorry I couldn't give you actual live tasting notes, but I'll put this away and I'll be right back with my recommendation. This is an absolutely lovely rye. If you have about $60, this is a great buy. One thing I will say is that this might not be for everyone. This is a very powerful, intense rye, and is a higher proof. So if you like cask strength and you like rye, I would get this bottle. If you like this bottle, you could also try something like Pikesville, which is around the same proof, a couple years older, and is about $50. Some other great options would be a Russell's Reserve single barrel rye or a Michter's rye. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Whiskey Central. Next week, I'll be reviewing the bottle that my patrons voted on, which is the Highland Park 12. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, leave it a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. That was awful. We're just going with the first one. It's aged for 4 years and it's bottled at cask strength. There's a hair in my eye. Can't do it. Okay. Okay. 15% malted barley. Damn it. Malted barley. 108. Okay. Can't do it. We just can't do it. I know the numbers. My mouth just can't get them out. Okay. Point. 108.2 proof. Damn it, Janet.